The 3rd of October is German Unity Day. This day commemorates the reunification of Germany in 1990. Following the Second World War, Germany was divided into 4 military sectors. 3 sectors under the watch of the UK, the US and France became the Federal Republic, while the 4th, controlled by the Soviet Union, became the German Democratic Republic. Life in the DDR was marked by surveillance and suppression of political dissent, and it was here in the DDR that Her Excellency Annett Günther, the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Kenya, was born and raised. Join us in this interview as she speaks on life in the DDR, the reunification of Germany, her diplomatic career, and why Kenya is special to her and Germany. Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'm so glad you're here. As always, please click subscribe and hit notification so you never miss an episode. And it is an honor and a pleasure to be hosted by the Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany, Her Excellency Mrs. Annett Günther. Thank you so much for your time and walking with us and talking with us and just sharing your experience on this little channel on YouTube. But in getting to know your story, I think it's very important that we go back to the beginning, growing up in East Germany, because there's a whole generation of millennials who do not imagine that Germany had an East and a West.
Karibu Sheila to my house.
Asante.
It's a pleasure to have you. And yeah, talking about East Germany, you may be right that the younger generation doesn't even really know about it. Not even my own children who were born after the reunification really have an idea what I'm talking about when I talk about my past in East Germany and your father is from West Germany and you know, so it's even a strange concept to them. But I think it's important to understand that Germany in the past consisted, or after the war, was divided into an Eastern communist state and in the Western Democratic Republic of Germany. And I must say, as a person who knows both sides, I'm very, very happy about the fact that we were eventually reunited and that now every year we can celebrate that day.
Growing up in East Germany, did you ever imagine I'm going to become an ambassador? How did this whole amazing journey unfold?
No, honestly, I never thought that I would become an ambassador, but and I even did not believe that reunification would ever take place. We must be very thankful for the people who actually fought for democracy, for the reunification, who went to the streets in '89 to put such a pressure on the regime for that to happen then.
Things to change,
yeah.
Which speaks to the power of the people. And that is the founding principle of a democracy. It's the power of the people, the will of the people. But you speak very many languages. And in reading your biography, I think to myself, growing up in East Germany and having that experience, what made you settle on languages?
I think it was my mother's dream and maybe also to some extent decision to send me to a special school that was teaching Russian, because Russian was the first foreign language of us, you know, from the language of our brothers in the Soviet Union. So we all had to learn Russian. But this was a special school where we learned Russian from the very beginning, not only from year 5. And the teachers were from Russia, so, and it was, let's say, selected kids, a bit more gifted. So actually it was an excellent school.
Right.
So that was the start to learn Russian at a very early age. And then as I grew up, then English was added to the curriculum. So in the end, I thought languages is something I like, I'm good at, and I had the feeling that languages will open the door to the world for me. Right. So secretly the thought was, if I learn foreign languages, then maybe later as an interpreter, translator or whatnot, I will be able to travel and see the world, because we were locked in, you know. So that was the motive behind it, and obviously I was quite good at it, so I continued that path to university, and then there I added Persian language, and then during my studies I studied also in Tajikistan, so also Tajik, and because many of our teachers at the time in East Germany at the university were Afghans, so we also learned the Afghan dialect, which later helped when I worked in Afghanistan and all that. So this is how I started to open my door to the world by learning languages.
Making that shift, that transition, and saying the wall has now come down, there are new opportunities. How did that happen?
In 1989, 1990, it was planned for me, because after my studies I stayed at the university as a researcher and lecturer for Persian language. And it was planned that I would go to Tehran for 6 months to get some, exposure and experience and improve my language skills. And well, secretly, maybe I had thought, like, from there I can, escape to the West. But then it wasn't, suddenly it wasn't necessary anymore.
You didn't need to escape anymore, the wall
I didn't have to escape, exactly. Yeah. And, well, I got to know a lot of people there from the then West German embassy. And I asked them, so is there anyone at your embassy who speaks any Persian? And they said, no. And I said, well, but, how do you understand what's going on? And they said, well, we have our interpreters. And I said, but none of the Germans? No. So when I came back 6 months later in summer 1990, I immediately applied. I had 5 weeks to prepare for the entrance exams, but I did it because I said, like, they need me.
Yes.
So that's how it happened.
You may not see it, but you need me. Here I am, reporting for duty. Post-reunification, I'm thinking the East and the West, the reunification of Germany. What sort of challenges were people facing then?
There were many challenges, because we know that the East German economy after the reunification, major part of it broke down because it was just not competitive enough. It was not, effective enough. So many companies had to be closed down. Maybe not, but that's how it happened. So many people lost their jobs. Many people growing up in a system that controls you that much, that tells you exactly what to do and where to go and when, and you didn't even have to apply for anything, because anything that you were eligible to came automatically, and there was nothing else. So just for people also to fill in forms, to apply for things, to do, I don't know, tax statements, or just, all the things that we do in a normal modern bureaucracy was not there. So I think this was a big change, and also for the people to live with that new freedom, to understand what democracy means. It's not only freedom, it's also responsibility. Right. You are a citizen, and you can participate in social life. So I think for many people the changes were very, very big. But I would say the majority welcomed the new freedom and the reunification, yes, even though it was difficult for some.
A life in diplomacy and making it work. Let's have a front row seat to what your experiences have been so far.
Well, at the beginning, I was very surprised that after the 2-year training course at the diplomatic school, the ministry wanted to send me to New Zealand.
Right.
And I said, like, but I did not apply for New Zealand, because I thought, well, I'll be humble and, don't apply for the places that everybody wants to go, the most beautiful places in the world. So we were posted to New Zealand. Right. Furthest away from Germany you can get. Exactly on the other side, of the globe. So that was the first challenge, to be so far away from family, from home. And then we didn't have computers, mobile phones, internet, WhatsApp, nothing like that. You could write a letter and wait for 3-4 weeks for the answer to come back.
Right.
So, but it was, of course, also a gift, to be in such a beautiful country, to fall in love with the country and the nature and all that. So I really tremendously enjoyed. On my second posting, I thought I should try to do something that relates to my education. Right. So, but at the time there was no opportunity to go to Afghanistan because of the situation there, the war. Then next choice, Tehran, Iran. as a woman diplomat in those days, that also would have been very difficult. So then, you know, I sat with this guy in his office, you know, from the HR department, and I said, look, why am I not going to Uzbekistan, you know? They speak Russian, which I also speak. There's a huge Tajik community. I speak Tajik. I'm familiar with the Central Asian region, so why can I not go there? And he says, like, you want to go to Uzbekistan?
You're literally volunteering.
And I said, yeah, of course, you know.
Yeah.
I love it. We extended by 1 year. I felt a little bit of déjà vu, because it also Uzbekistan had become independent, so there was a lot of post-communist, post-Soviet, you know,
and
features.
You were familiar with all
you know,
of that.
But for me, it was a déjà vu, you know,
right.
And very easygoing, and of course, speaking the language always helps a lot, you know, to feel at home in a new country, to relate with the people, the culture, and all that. So, and also there, you know, beautiful nature, big mountains, deserts, but also rich in history, Bukhara, Samarkand, and all these well-known historical states. Yes. So that was a beautiful time as well, you know.
Yeah.
And well, and after that I came back to Germany in summer '91, just before 9/11 happened, you know. And that's when then all the eyes were on Afghanistan and what would the international community be doing. And then you know what the reaction was with the US and its partners going into Afghanistan, trying to fight terrorism there. And then, of course, Afghanistan was just a minor little subject in the ministry, but suddenly they had to found a task force, a special unit to deal with all these operations. So I volunteered and I said, any of you speak Dari or know anything about Afghanistan? So I'm the one you need in that task force.
That is exactly
That's
where they
how,
sent you.
But you know, things happen, you know. This is just a coincidence of history, but that's how I ended up in that unit that dealt with the Afghanistan policy and all that. And during that time, I had the chance to work in Kabul as the political advisor of the commander of ISAF, of the international forces, just to work with the military and frame it a little bit, the political background, and also to help him in his meetings, because he was not just the commander, he was a political figure, clearly, and he had to interact with the Afghan politicians, with, you know, other nations, the UN and all that. So that was very rich experience for me to work with the military. Yeah. You know, these are different worlds.
It's again civil world. Different, right? From
but once you understand, you understand their language. You know, they speak a completely different language. Yeah. But it was a very rich experience. So, and coming back from that, it was also like a natural step to go to the Federal College for Security Studies, where we exactly dealt with all the issues of civil-military cooperation, with the broader security issues that brings all the actors and all the capabilities that you have for an intervention, from military to humanitarian to civilian, political together. So I think that was, from there, sort of like the development was quite a natural one, and I felt very much at home after a while in all these subjects.
What are your thoughts about Afghanistan now?
It's a sad story, I think, because after 20 years of, I wouldn't call it intervention, of cooperation, you know, of working with the Afghan people. We'll leave alone the military aspect, but we have been there also lots of projects of cooperation, of course, also with humanitarian assistance. But we have built schools, we have empowered women, we have strengthened the civil society, you know, we have helped them to have quite respectable elections in 2014. So, and as you can see in the news, that the women and the civil society, they see the danger that the achievements, they may be lost now. Right. But I hope that all these thoughts, all these achievements, that will stay in their minds and in their hearts, and that together we will continue to defend democracy, to defend human rights, and to give them a future and a perspective, and not for the women to fall back into those times before where women were just not present in that society.
Right.
So I just hope we will have the chance and the opportunity to continue the work that we have started with the people of Afghanistan and with the Afghan society.
And that's a hope shared by many around the world. In getting to know Her Excellency the Ambassador, we went for a walk in the Karura forest, and I learned that she is keen on the environment. I also got to meet two beautiful members of her family, and it was here that she spoke about what influenced her love for nature.
I grew up in a very dense, industrial, ugly town with chimneys and, you know, not really nice, somewhere in East Germany. And then years later, and I could not understand why my parents would always go outside the city in a little garden to do their garden. I thought, like, how boring. As a teenager, huh?
Of course, teenagers want the city. And
you want the city, yeah? And the dogs were added when we lived in Botswana 10 years ago, and my daughter desperately wanted a dog, our first dog. And I said, okay, being in Southern Africa, it has to be a typical Southern African dog, and that's where we started with Sheba here, our first Ridgeback. And yes, now we are at 4, but we only have Sheba and a daughter here. But of course, the dogs also, they make you go out every day, no matter what the weather. And you can imagine in Germany, sometimes it was hard, it was cold, dark, snow, rain, miserable. But still, the dogs make you go out, and we lived in the countryside a little bit, so there's lots of woods and fields that you could walk.
They can go and run in
and then you start appreciating these activities that before you didn't know that it was so much fun to do all that.
So they have traveled.
I'm
sitting here with world-class travelers.
Yes.
What is it like, you know, being able to, you know, raise the family and of course traveling with the dogs and finding that balance? Do you find Sheba, Naledi help you with that?
Of course, yes. They are part of the family, you know. They travel wherever we travel or wherever we move. Wouldn't say travel, we move from one country to the other. And they never had a problem. They walk into the new place and think, okay, fine, lay down, and this is it. So they've been very easy traveling. For kids and families, sometimes it's more difficult to adjust, but these guys are completely easygoing when it comes to going new places. And it's good to have them with you. You know, they're part of the family.
And speaking of being part of the family, Karura Forest is part of my family. It's a huge forest. I still discover and explore it every time I come in. And in your posting here in Kenya, I'm sure you've spent a lot of time here as well. What would you say about our approach to our environment? Are we doing enough?
I think this is a privilege to have such a gem in the middle of a city where people can walk and relax and get away from the buzz, you know, of everyday life. Yes, so this is very good, and of course Kenya has vast nature resorts and beautiful mountains, the sea, the coast, the bush and all that. I traveled a lot. But of course, and there's a lot done, you know, KWS and the authorities and also here the forest. They do a lot, but you can always do more. But of course you have to balance that also with the needs of the population, of the economy. So I think the hard thing is to find that balance. How can we provide everything that we need for the population, for the economy? How can we at the same time reconcile that with the conservation of nature? So I think this is the hard thing in every country. But I think Kenya is doing quite well.
Great words to hear from the ambassador. We then visited her at work, where we realized her very unique number plate, 1CD1K. And here's what she had to say about that number plate and Kenya's close ties with Germany.
My license plate is the 1CD1.
Yes.
And you know, it's probably best you can have in Nairobi. No, and it makes me proud because that indicates Germany was the first country to acknowledge Kenya's independence. So we were the first international partner of Kenya. And we have been ever since. And the partnership has been growing. You were at Pangani High and learned German.
Yes.
So why is that? Because of course we have an engagement in education, in the teaching of the German language at various schools, in trainer education for German language trainers, cultural things. You know, we have a vast program of scholarships, which only works basically if you start at the bottom teaching, you know, young children German language. Then they go on to the scholarship program, they go study in Germany, and that increases the link between our two countries. Some of the high-level politicians in this country have been
they've
studied in Germany or profited from that scholarship program. But also, of course, the business relations, trade relations, development cooperation, which is, after all those years, now at a level where it's really deep and rich, and where we look at where we can contribute best to the goals of the country. So we are not telling this is important, or you have to take this, or you have to do that. We really go, so what is it that the government wants? The big four, manufacturing. So our focus is on vocational training.
Right.
You know, you have all these young people, 1 million, you know, enter the, you know, either the job market or the educational market or whatever. They need to be trained.
Yeah.
And without well-trained workers, you cannot build up an industrialization in manufacturing. Why is Germany so successful economically? Not because we have big companies like Siemens and Mercedes and whatnot. It's small, medium-sized enterprises. But they are so highly specialized that they succeed in the world, you know, that they are leaders in the world. Why are they that? Because they have a well-trained workforce, you know, TVET. You know, we are not talking academic stuff. TVET, but very, very highly specialized. And people who go through such a TVET and work in such a company, they make more money than some university graduates.
Yes.
No, and they find a job. And we still lack, you know, well-trained a well-trained workforce. There's still not enough of them.
There's still a dearth.
So this is what we are promoting, what we try to showcase. But of course, all the other issues, such as, of course, climate change. So we work a lot with Kenya on geothermal energy. We were actually the first to start financing Olkaria power plants. Yeah, and Kenya is leading, you may not know.
Right now, yes.
It's leading not only in Africa, but also on a global level on geothermal or renewable energies, as it were.
Which are safer for the planet too. Yes.
It's very, very good. So these are things that we would like to even promote further. And there's agriculture and other things.
Final words of inspiration, encouragement.
I have seen so much talent, so much enthusiasm here with the young generation, not only in the Burma, in general. In the young population, we see it, we feel it, and I'm sure it will help and continue to bring Kenya as a country and Kenya as a society forward, especially if we continue to promote young girls and women to be part of that development and not to be shy, to, you know, show everyone what they can do. You can reach so many things that you never dreamt of. When I was young, I never dreamt to be the German ambassador to Kenya. Here I am. So it's possible. Just go for it, you know. Maybe not, it doesn't happen tomorrow, but it will, you know. And you build upon, you know, each step, you will grow and you will mature and you will get there. Just reach out for your goals.
Thank you so much for your time and all the very best as you celebrate 31 years. Well done, Germany.
Thank you.
Continue
Thank you
setting
so
standards and teaching the rest of us about how it's done.
Thank you. We will. Thank you so much, Sheila, for your interest and for giving the opportunity to reach out to your followers and tell our stories.
Anytime, all the time. Asante.
Thank you.
Asante. Vielen Dank.